Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Push with Nick and KP. My name is KP. I'm joined by Nick. Obviously, you probably figured that one out by now. And hey, we are a brand new YouTube channel. We are going to be discussing all things to do with WWE. We're going to be going through all of the premium live events as they happen in real life. So we have a little bit of a theme today because we have got the Royal Rumble premium live event coming up this Saturday in Tampa Bay, Florida. For those of you who obviously love the Royal Rumble, myself included, I'm sure Nick probably falls into that category as well. We're quite excited for this one, aren't we, buddy?
Yeah, this is my favorite PLE of the year, so I'm excited to get into this one. Excited to see what happens this weekend.
It's always a good event when the Royal Rumble comes around. There's a lot of surprises, a lot of all like stuff up in the air. You don't know what's going to go down in its entirety, but yeah, maybe some shocks, some things that could be going down, but purely suspicions and just sort of like creative theories about what's going to go down. But yeah, this Saturday, Tampa Bay, Florida, Royal Rumble comes back around. And how about we delve into the match card here? Because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be discussing all the matches that take place at the event. We're going to be predicting to see who we think is going to win, and we'll see what goes down. So, first and foremost, we are going to be talking about the Royal Rumble matches, because why would you start anywhere else? So, 2 Rumbles are obviously scheduled for the event, one being the men's, one being the women's. How about we talk about that of the men's Rumble first? So, as of recording, as of this time, right here, right now, I'm currently looking at a list. We have 10 names that are announced for the men's Royal Rumble match. So obviously a third of the field already declared entry. The names of those are Cody Rhodes, who obviously won last year's Royal Rumble, CM Punk, one of the favorites this year, Shinsuke Nakamura, who's been a bit of a menace as of recent, Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, trying to make a big name for himself, trying to get back to the Almighty as far as he's concerned on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, that's sort of, on that precipice of being up there with the world champions and, being the main event talent on Monday Night Raw. He's really trying for himself. Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, longest reigning IC champion of all time. Chad Gable, one of those guys that's sort of like fallen back into the middle of the card, just sort of like here and there, but, is still relevant with the Alpha Academy. Otis as well, his tag team partner. Again, same situation with Chad Gable. Obviously, can't have 2/3 of Alpha Academy without the third member being Akira Tozawa. He's announced for the Royal Rumble as well. And as of last night on Monday Night Raw, officially announced Kofi Kingston will be in the Royal Rumble as well. Probably looking to make another moment to go down in the history book for himself. So when I look at the field for this one, I think that, obviously with the 10 men being announced, we've still got 20 names left. So that opens a lot of speculation, lots of ifs, maybes, could be's, and whatnot. So in terms of picking a winner here, I think it's a little bit of an open field. But I think actually, whilst looking at those names, I feel like the favourite might already be on there. What do you think, Nick? Are you in agreement with that one?
Yeah, at first, I love that there's only a third of the field announced. Comparatively speaking to prior years, I really dislike the surprise factor, because that's one of the things that makes us like this pay-per-view, premium live event so much, right? It's kind of a surprise factor, and when they announce all but one participant, it kind of makes it feel lackluster, in my opinion. But I do think that the winner of the Rumble is shown here even further. I might even do like the final 4 is already here. But yeah, I'll let you go first, and then we'll see if we're on the same page on this one.
To predict the final 4 out of this list, I think could be a bold statement, but looking at the names, I think you actually could be on something there. So you've got the likes of Cody Rhodes, you've got the likes of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Gunther. I don't know if they are your 4, but I think they could be up there with the 4, all on Monday Night Raw. But I think it sounds like the obvious call here, but I think CM Punk's probably going to win it. Like, the more I think about it, I think there are a couple of names who I'd prefer to have win this match over CM Punk. I don't particularly think Punk needs to win the Rumble, but I think looking at the situation, looking at how the rivalry is with Seth freaking Rollins, obviously that's a little bit up in the air with Seth's current injury at the moment. I think, the ideal match that WWE want is to have Punk against Rollins at Mania. I think it makes sense. I think people have been wanting that for a while. and this seems like a good way of getting him into that position. So yeah, I think my head tells me to go with CM Punk here, but my heart says I don't know, a lot of other names really. I think I prefer a fair few more. Like I think of the likes of like a Drew McIntyre win would be kind of cool. I think Gunther winning would be phenomenal. Sami Zayn would just be insane, but obviously I'm biased towards Sami. I'm a big fan of Sami Zayn, by the way, just for all you guys listening. And yeah, I think there are some other names in there as well that I would prefer. But yeah, CM Punk is what I'm going to go with. Do you agree?
I don't disagree. I'll put it that way. I'd love to have anyone else win it. Kind of like you said, does CM Punk really need to win to be put into a title picture anyways? I think inevitably he's going to be in one regardless. But yeah, I would rather have Cody Rhodes win it. I know you'll disagree with me on that one just as much as I disagree with wanting to see CM Punk. But I think the final four could very well be here in Cody, CM Punk. Shinsuke's been on a tear lately as well, and that's my preferred wrestler for the viewers out there. But I think Bobby Lashley and Drew Gunther, none of those would surprise me in the final four, and I think Damian Priest as well. I think his overall Money in the Bank reign has been a little underwhelming, but I won't get into big details there. We could talk about that some other time, but I do think putting him in the final four here would really kind of help push him up a little more, give him a little more credit. Not that he's been lacking it, but I think just overall his booking of the Money in the Bank just hasn't been great. But yeah, if I had to pick a winner, kind of how they teased last night on Raw with Gunther and Rollins, I like that a lot. I like that more than and with the way they did Cody and CM Punk last night going up against each other. Obviously, they both don't have titles right now, but that's a money making match in itself too. So maybe they eliminate each other at the end. I like Gunther here to win. I think that's my favorite. But another point of discussion here for this match, I think is if whoever wins. So you say CM Punk wins, I say Gunther wins. Who do you think they go after, and then how do they come up with the other title challenger? And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm thinking the way I am is Gunther going over. I think could honestly take Rollins or Reigns, but I think the way they kind of teased it last night was maybe Rollins. And then you could have CM Punk or Cody Rhodes go after Reigns, assuming he still has the title, which we can get into that later. But I think they can go for the other title holder without much backlash as to why they're there. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I thought the interaction between Gunther and Seth Rollins last night was really interesting. I thought, they had like a nice dynamic between the two of them, even though Seth with his injury, obviously nursing with that. I thought that was quite like a money shot, like whether it's for a world title, whether it's for an Intercontinental Championship, I don't know. You could flip it around, maybe that it could be, Gunther's getting in the face of Rollins now. What if Rollins does have to relinquish the title at some point? Maybe he's out for a bit longer than he thinks. Relinquishes the title, comes back, and he takes the title off of Gunther, takes the Intercontinental Championship away. I don't think that's the correct thing to do, but I think you could throw that down as like a swerve type angle. If the World Heavyweight Championship by that point is busy. But yeah, I think that when you look at Reigns in this as well and his availability in WrestleMania, I think someone like CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, I mean, they could probably go from brand to brand. And they're not, the WWE, they're not exactly strict with their brand split rules. So they do allow people to go from here to there. So yeah, I think Cody and Punk going over to SmackDown for whatever reason to qualify to go against him, I think that's definitely within the realms of possibility for sure. So yeah, I think the Royal Rumble winner, I think, has to be on Raw for this. Yeah, for this reason of being on the World Heavyweight Championship side of things. But I suppose you never know, right? That's the unpredictability of the Rumble sometimes.
And while I hate the lack of brand loyalty, I guess we'll call it, it does make for a little less predictive outcome here. because they're kind of going back and forth, and they always, like they always do, they make a big deal out of it at first once the brand split or the draft or whatever happened, but then after a while, if it's not convenient, they just kind of go with whatever. But yeah, my only request, if we do go down the Gunther Rollins, would be to not do any more double champions. I don't want to see anyone else holding 2 titles. I think that we've seen that with Reigns, and we've seen that with the tag titles, and they're still doing it with the tag titles, and it's just not a good look. But yeah, going with Gunther on my final answer there, but I won't be mad with another Cody one. Who would you go with if for not CM Punk? And then I think that's about all I had for this one.
If it's not CM Punk to win, like, just for the record, I don't want CM Punk to win, but I think that is my logical choice. But I think if it's not Punk, I personally, if I could pick anybody to win this one, I would pick Gunther, purely because I think he deserves a world championship matchup. But it's like you said, it comes back down to that double champion philosophy. I don't really rate someone having 2 titles at the same time. I think it takes the spotlight away from somebody who could be deserving it for themselves. So, yeah, it's an awkward one. It really, really is. I mean, I actually wouldn't be against a Cody win again, even though that's a little bit out of the blue from me, considering how vocal I've been about Cody in recent months. But I think I honestly would rather Cody win than CM Punk. I think I would happily see that happen instead. But yeah, I don't know. It's all full of here's, there's, buts, maybes, and ifs. I don't know. But yeah, Gunther, providing that somehow he doesn't become a double champion, but I don't see that being possible. I really, really don't. You're going with Gunther as your definite pick. I'm going with CM Punk as my definite pick. How about we switch gears then and talk about the other side of the Royal Rumble? So you got the women's side, yeah? And we said we've got 10 people announced for the men. We've only got 6 announced for the women. So we got Bayley, obviously, one of the members of Damage Control over on Friday Night SmackDown. She was the very first person to announce for the Royal Rumble match. Then you've got Nia Jax, who, is on a bit of a wrecking spree at the moment. She's, made it very, very clear that she's going in and she's winning. Becky Lynch is also announced, as well, as has Bianca Belair. And then another 2 that have been announced also are Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. So they're the names there that have been announced. Obviously, you still got 24 women who haven't. So I think that's fantastic. I love the way they've done that. Hopefully it stays that way building up into the event. Obviously, we've still got SmackDown. We've still got a few days in between then. So you never know what's going to go down behind the scenes. We have had a couple of announcements outside of shows. So there was, you've had Becky Lynch on a Peacock special, Maxine Dupree on YouTube, got announced on YouTube. So, it is possible. I don't think they're doing it as crazy as last year. I swear there was more Freak Rumble by this time. But it gives you promise, right? It gives promise for some speculation, some surprises, perhaps. But I very much like the men's one. I think the women's winner is actually on this list already. And I think you agree with me, just to confirm that we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, quite certain. And I might even say that in order that you listed them, that might be the final 4. They've been teasing a lot with 3 out of 4 of these participants that were first announced: Bayley, Nia, Becky. Becky's constantly kind of in the picture with the Rhea, and then going back and forth with Nia. So I have a feeling they may or may not cause each other their eliminations. But I could also see that the one that gets eliminated kind of trying to worm their way back in to the title picture, or in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I for this one, I do think it is going to be Bayley. I think hopefully we see something happen with her winning, and then kind of Damage Control, and finally seeing that story pay off that they've been teasing for a while. That seems like the most obvious answer. To be really boring, and I know you won't love this either, I wouldn't be mad at a Bianca repeat. But I think she's kind of fallen off a little bit, and I don't think that really deserved. But granted, she was up on top for so long. I think I realized they have to take breaks eventually. But I think that'd probably be my second pick. But again, none of those four, Bailey, Nia, Becky, and Bianca, of the six announced, would surprise me. I'm hoping it's not Nia. I appreciate the effort and the renewed push that she's gotten. I personally just haven't seen any improvements that would warrant her a main event picture. So that's just my opinion on this. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength for absolutely sure. It's got to be Bailey, right? I think it just makes most sense when you think about the competitors that are announced anyway. Obviously, there aren't that many, so it makes it a little more difficult. But I mean, you do have a couple of situations. You got Nia pushing for Rhea. You got Becky doing the same. You got Bianca, who is obviously pushing for Io. But I feel like Bianca could just get a title shot with Io whenever she wants to, right? I don't feel like it's that hard to get a championship match with Io Sky. I don't know why, but like it doesn't give me sort of like vibes where you have to go through hell and whatever to get that championship opportunity. But for someone like Bailey, it's a lot more difficult. Obviously, being in the same faction, being in the same group, being a friend, being a mentor, whatever you want to call Bailey with her relationship towards Io Sky. She's been shadowed out by Io in the past year or so. I mean, Bailey last year, she had a pretty terrible run in terms of winning matches. I think she put over countless names throughout the year. And you got to give respect to Bailey for doing that because, you know, not everybody would want to go with that and be happy with the situation. So, yeah, I think when you look at Bailey in this one, she's been, like you said, heavily linked to be the winner, as has Nia Jax, as has Becky Lynch, and Bianca's been in there a little bit as well. So, yeah, I think all four women do have viable credits to be candidates to win. But I think Bailey's story is what is above the rest. Like, Becky can face up against Rhea. She can win the Elimination Chamber or something. So as could Nia. So I feel like their paths could be really simple. But for Bailey, it's much more difficult. And I feel like there's going to be some sort of tension between her and the rest of the group. Damage Control, Kabuki Warriors. And it's going to lead to sort of like some... I don't know if it's jealousy from Io. Maybe like, Bailey's won the Royal Rumble here. I got to be careful. I don't know. It could be a situation like that, perhaps. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of mind games, sort of mental stuff going on here. And it just works at this current point in time. Io against Bailey at Mania would be phenomenal. It would be cracking. So, yeah, something that I'm definitely interested in for sure.
And you make some good points. And I think as far as Bailey winning, going after Io, do we both think of that as like a main event caliber event? I know we do personally as, diehard wrestling fans, but does the general audience, that is constantly grabbed by this time of year, the Rumble to Mania season, does it grab their attention? That's partially why I'm, and Bianca would go after Io too, so it kind of like, makes me second guess just on the spot that maybe Becky is the winner here simply because the man versus mommy. I mean, is that just kind of grabs headlines a little more, I think, to the average viewer. Curious to hear your thoughts on that.
You make some really good points there, actually. When you think of it like that, I can't disagree with you on that one. I think that Becky against Rhea is, on paper, like you said, to the casual fan, it probably does appeal to a lot more people. So, yeah, it's not like I'm saying that you're wrong there because I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. But, I think that, yeah, it's hard because we are really big fans of Bailey and Io Sky. I haven't watched NXT, seeing Io come up through there, and, she is absolutely wonderfully talented. And as is Bailey as well, we're she's one of the four horsewomen. So, she's no slouch herself. But I think the main problem is with Bailey, if you compare the likes of Becky Lynch to Bailey, so the challenger in this situation, right? Bailey, over the last course of the year or so, she's been booked very, very poorly. But then someone like Becky Lynch, she's had like a little bit of like, she's gone through her hard times, but she's always come out from those, except for the current one with Nia, where she's on the, she's on a loss against her. She's come out on top at the end of things. Like she beat Trish Stratus. I think like we're going in terms of like going back towards the last like sort of like big loss that Becky probably took without correcting it was probably against Bianca Belair for the championship, right? We're going back to like a WrestleMania. So we're going back a while for that one. I think, yeah, the credibility is higher with Becky against Rhea, but the story is better for Bayley and Io. So yeah, you make some very, very valid points. I can't help but agree with you.
Yeah, and I think like I said, I think we both want to see the Bayley Io more, and they've certainly been telling that story a lot longer. I feel like the Rhea Becky has been a few weeks, and the only other caveat I would add to Becky's resume would just be that loss to Nia, which took me by surprise. It's been 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month now, and their little feud, and she came out on top, which I think made her a credible threat to this Rumble. Not that she always wasn't, because the big person in the Rumble is always the biggest and best when it comes to Rumble. Although I don't think we've seen that pan out very well for them, but it's always advertised that way. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with Becky. I'm gonna change my mind. I think I'm gonna go with Becky simply because it makes more sense for Mania, and kind of the other side of that coin we've been arguing, the story, you can still do the Bayley Io, either whether it be through Elimination Chamber or maybe just naturally, who knows. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Becky on this one, and Bayley is my second option. Just to confirm, you're not going with Maxine and Ivy as backups then, correct?
You know what? I was tempted. I had a good think about it. And, I think maybe even a double finish with Maxine and Ivy both going over the top at the same time at the last, and then being a triple threat against Rhea at Mania. Like, I was torn, but I'm going to go.
It writes itself.
I know, right? Written in the stars, that one. But yeah, I think I'll stick with Bayley. I think, my secondary pick could be Becky Lynch, purely for that other side of the coin. You make some very valid points, but yeah, a little bit switcheroo there from you, changing your mind from Bayley to Becky. I get it. I completely understand it, to be honest with you. So, okay, we don't just have Rumbles. Despite, the name of the show. There are a couple of other matches, not many, but we do have a couple of others. Speaking of which, we have the United States Championship on the line. It's Logan Paul's first defense since winning the championship. So they have the United States Championship tournament over on SmackDown. Kevin Owens would be, I think he'd come out just before the tournament started, and he would get in the face of Logan Paul. He basically make himself aware that, he's the guy that is going to come for the championship, and it would be KO to win that tournament. Here we go, flash forward to now, and it is for the United Championship, Kevin Owens against Logan Paul. So, obviously, we've had the build-up for this one has been Kevin Owens with the fractured hand, I want to say, fractured wrist, fractured hand, having that the support on, and he's been using it as like an accidental weapon in matches. He hasn't been doing it seriously, but it's just sort of like a self-conscious, strike at the opponent, and that'll knock them down, and it gives KO a nice win there. And I think that Logan Paul has sort of come off a little bit hypocritical in this one, because he called out Kevin Owens saying that it's a weapon, shouldn't be used, it's an illegal thing to have. And he's only winning those matches purely because of the reason of that support. And I think you look at Logan Paul, he's got the titanium in his hand, right? That's what he's been priding himself on over the last couple of years since joining the company, since going in ring. I think it is a little bit hypocritical. Like, he does basically the same thing. So when you look at it on that side of the coin, that's basically the build for this one. If you look at it in terms of a winner and a loser, I am a little bit torn about this one. I don't know if you've got a clear idea in your head, buddy. But I feel like one side I can go with one side I can go with the other. One makes a lot more sense than the other, but I don't know. Is this title has been delved in confusion over the last 7 or 8 months. So, what are you thinking regarding this one?
Yeah, I obviously agree as far as the past few reigns, or at least the last one, for the U.S. title. I will say a couple things. First of all, is while I don't like the part-time status of Logan Paul, and I know that was a concern of yours at the beginning of this, I feel like somehow, even though he hasn't been there as much week in, week out, like a Kevin Owens, it's still kind of, they've done a good job of making it feel like he was there even if he wasn't. Kind of like the, I guess we'll call them interviews or kind of like video packages he's been doing even when he's not there. So it makes it feel like he has still been there even though he hasn't. The Kevin Owens with the wrist bit, I kind of thought that would be a reason at first why he wouldn't win. But now obviously he's kind of used that to his advantage. Yeah, I think if we're going off who we want to win, I think we'll both pick the same. But honestly, I don't, because the reign hasn't been very long for Logan. I do feel he is a legit competitor. I just want him to be here more. But just for the sake of it, I'm going to go with Kevin Owens just because as most wrestling fans would probably agree, we want a full-time champion. And I like that they have built this up. Maybe Logan Paul was just to help elevate it. But I like that they've done that. It does seem like it's more important now, and the tournament to get here has loaded with talent that probably will be around for years and years to come. So, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think like everything you're saying is pretty reasonable, to be fair. And I think let's just talk about that United States Championship tournament with the whole build to this matchup and Logan not seeming too far away, but not being there at the same time. I feel like they did a good job with it, and I agree with you on that one. But like, would that only work in a tournament capacity? Because obviously you've got sort of like the ongoings of the tournament. It's over a few weeks. It takes time to like get the number one contender because you got to go through all the previous rounds, like the quarterfinals, semifinal, the final, that sort of vibe. So like having like Logan do the odd interview is all right, but like you won't be able to do that all the time, will you? Like you can't do tournaments every single month because obviously people are just going to like fed up, basically boring situation all the time. The booking's going to be very repetitive. So like I feel like, don't get me wrong, I agree with you. A good job of making him be there with those interviews and those backstage things and like the little little cameo appearances every now and then. He would show up sometimes. I do like their intention to do that because obviously with Roman, if he's not on the show, you don't see him. He doesn't like put in a little recording in advance or whatever. So it's basically the only time you hear him is if Michael Cole talks about him, or if Heyman says to call Roman Reigns. So that's like the only references really to him. So yeah, I mean, this matchup, like I said, very back and forth. You go with Kevin Owens. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens as well, purely for the reason that if you look at the part-time champions, Roman, is he going to be working Elimination Chamber? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. It's in Australia. Don't know if that makes a difference, but, I don't think he will be. Then you look at Seth freaking Rollins, obviously just got injured. So he's not going to be around with his championship. So you're already 2 champions down there. Logan Paul, part-time. Can you really have that with those 2 gone? I don't think so. I think you need more champions like currently around on the roster active at that time. So I think purely for the fact that Kevin Owens is a full-time member of the roster, I think he's going to win this one, and it makes sense both logically and I want him to as well. So they link up nicely there. I'm not like going against one of my feelings. So yeah, Kevin Owens to win for sure. I agree.
And I guess in talking about the part-time status, unfortunately, has kind of overrode the expectations for the actual match. I mean, just speaking from a match perspective, this should be a really good match. Really fun match. They built up this kind of rivalry for a while now, and Logan hasn't had a dud, and Kevin Owens never has a dud as far as I'm concerned. So I think this could be. Hell, there are only 4 matches on the card as of now, but I'm really excited for this one, and all of them for that matter. But I think this one could be a sneaky match of the night, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Logan, we know how good he is, right? We know that he can deliver when he's in the ring. We've seen that against like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and other competitors as well. And yeah, he can always deliver. He has tremendous talent for someone of his inexperience. So yeah, I mean, this does look like a great match on paper. Kevin Owens is obviously very experienced, very, very good in-ring athlete as in his own right. This should be a cracking match, and I'm looking forward to it. So we're both going with Kevin Owens. We both agree on that one. Yeah, there you go. Nice, easy prediction from this one then. So in terms of the matches then, we do still have one more to talk about, one more to discuss. And that is a fatal 4-way for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. You've got Roman Reigns putting his title on the line. First time in a little while, I think. Up against Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and then LA Knight as well. So this one's quite an interesting dynamic. Fatal 4-way, Roman wasn't happy about this one. Build up being the other three challengers here were meant to have they did have a triple threat matchup. They did, where the winner would challenge Roman Reigns. But unfortunately for Roman, he got involved with the rest of the bloodline, decided to take out all 3 men, and Nick Aldis was like, yeah, okay then, congratulations, you got yourself a fatal 4-way instead. I thought that was fantastic. I think Nick Aldis, just as like a separate thing here, is doing a cracking job as SmackDown GM. I think he's killing it at the moment. I love his attitude. I love his vibe, his way of doing things. I think he's got a really good blend in the role. I think he's very used to it. So yeah, just a little shout out there to Nick Aldis, I suppose. But yeah, this matchup presents a lot of interesting spots. I think you've got 4 men with unreal talent across the board here, and I think this one should be an absolute killer of a contest. Really excited for this match to go down. In terms of the winner, I think it's fairly obvious, but in terms of the match, I'm just excited. Just want to see what goes down. I want to see how they do it. Who takes the pin could be quite interesting in this one. You probably don't want to pin Randy Orton. You probably don't want to pin Styles. So I guess, does that leave LA Knight? It probably does. But yeah, I think, just an exciting matchup for sure. I'm going to go with Roman Reigns. I think it's a pretty straightforward decision. He'll take the title into Mania, into a marquee matchup. I'm assuming you're going to agree.
While I want to disagree, I, again, cannot. Because it's a Roman Reigns match, you have the likelihood of the bloodline interfering. And who gets the pin, I think, is a great question, too, because while LA Knight hasn't been, he's still hot, of course. But since his loss to Roman, I think it has cooled down a bit. And I think with Randy Orton kind of returning, CM Punk kind of returning, I think that has taken a bit of a spotlight. AJ Styles returning, the big guns are out here. Does LA Knight take another pin? I don't see Randy taking it either. But I almost would lean towards AJ taking it over LA Knight, because AJ Styles, like a Rollins, no pin is going to hurt him. While I would say the same about Randy, for whatever reason, he just doesn't lose a lot. I guess that's a difference. But the elephant in the room here, we have the bloodline, but then we also have Damian Priest, and I know we've wrestled with this many times. He is in the Rumble, but depending on where the Rumble is in the match card, well, I guess it really doesn't matter. It could be the match before, and I guess he could still play a role here. Do you think he plays a role? And I guess, because I think it'll kind of go hand in hand with this conversation, how do you think the matches will be played out in terms of order? I think that does make a big difference if he'll be able to make a difference in this match.
You make a really good point there, because when you think about the Royal Rumble, it's usually a main event, right? But Roman Reigns in this title run, he's literally the main event. Like, that's what he's been throughout the entirety of it. And a card that's got him on defending, where he's not the main event, I don't know the last time that happened. So I think when you look at it that way, because the Royal Rumble last year, the men's one, it didn't main event, did it? Because it ended with Sammy turning on Roman, right? In that main event, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So I mean, this could take presidency. But was the reason that Roman was main event last year because, and only because, of the Sammy turn and not the match itself? I mean, it could be. It could have been that reason. Maybe it was just because of the story. I don't see us like anything that can go on after this that could be the main event. That could factor into it being the main event over the Royal Rumble, except for, like you said, if Damian Priest was to cash in. But I mean, how likely is that? I mean, unless all of the Judgment Day are sort of like working together in this one, because I mean, you've got the three in the ring, so what? That cancels out what? Well, you got all four of them in the ring, really. You have to worry about all four of them. Yeah, sorry, not all, not three. I mean, that counts out Judgment Day there and then you've got the Bloodline. You've got Solo. You've got Jimmy Uso. So how do you sort of like? I mean, Damian Priest hasn't cashed in on Seth Rollins after a last man standing match against Shinsuke Nakamura. He hasn't cashed in on Seth Rollins whilst he's been injured on Raw with a torn MCL. Like, I don't actually know when this magical moment is that Priest wants, because he's just letting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity go past him. This doesn't look like the right opportunity. I'm telling you right now. You got these four. You got the Bloodline lurking. You got Heyman in around the situation. No, he's not going to do anything, but you know he can provide a distraction, I suppose. It just doesn't seem right. Like, I can't see it. It doesn't seem logical for me. But maybe I'm missing something. If you want to guide me down the right path.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I alluded to earlier, was with Damian, I don't love his reign as Money in the Bank briefcase holder, because he has always had the numbers, and you know, when it seemed blatantly obvious with the Rollins injury bit and the story they were telling, he didn't do it, and somehow it would always, you know, he wouldn't actually successfully cash in. He would just tease it or get distracted or something like that. But on the other side of that same coin, think of the mass chaos that's going to be going on with the four of them and the Bloodline and possibly Judgment Day. You know, I think you're right in that is too much, but also there are plenty of distractions. Something crazy could come out of it. I'm not sure. But yeah, and as far as the terms of who, you know, when the matches will go on, I don't think Roman has been champion not main evented, at least that I can recall. So I think that puts this one as the main event, and I think as you know, I don't know, because you know the men and women have always typically done it, and then they're shown, you know, pointing to the sign to close out. So I don't know if it'll be. Clearly, they'd have to kick off one of the Rumble matches, and I don't know. Maybe they go to the men and then U.S. women's and then this one. I'm not sure, but yeah, I probably not going to go with the cash in, but yeah, obviously that is still a possibility. But with there being four, you know, 11 people potentially around the ring at some point. But that's the thing too, is back to the Priest bit. I know I'm jumping around here a little bit. He has the Judgment Day, but how often are they actually around when he tries to cash in? Seems like a missed opportunity there. So yeah, I unfortunately I do think Roman's going to win here. I'm curious how chaotic it's going to be, but it should be a fun one.
Yeah, I quite enjoy the discussion actually, because it just gives the opportunity to break this one down into way more variables than it actually looks like it at the moment. So obviously Priest has been teasing all the time to cash on the World Heavyweight Champion. I don't think we've seen him once tease to cash in on Roman. Like, he hasn't actually come out to ringside during a Roman match, has he? So, I mean, they could just throw something in quickly here, because why not? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, the order of the matches are very important. You've only got 4 matches on the card, so 2 Rumbles, 2 non-Rumbles. I guess the most logical thing really is to do Rumble, other match, Rumble. But I mean, that means putting Roman in a mid card spot, which doesn't sit right with me either. So I guess it has to be Rumble, regular, with this one being the main event. So yeah, I guess it does make sense when you think about it, right? It does make a lot of sense. But yeah, interesting dynamic to the card. There aren't any other matches. That's all 4 of them so far. I don't think anything's going to come from SmackDown. Maybe there will, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, for now, those 4 matches, that's all that's been announced. And yeah, a big event with a lot of question marks all over it. I think we can put it that way.
Yeah, and I'm all for it. I'm all for the lack of knowing what's going on. And one thing I did find interesting with, I think there are 2 tag matches, women's on Friday for the championship, and then Monday, I believe, as well for the men's side. Is why not put those on the pay-per-view? The Rumbles usually take about an hour ish, hour 20. Maybe this Undisputed one will take another hour, so maybe you just don't have time for it. But I don't see why you couldn't at least put one of those on there. I did have one thought that maybe the women's side of it will have some sort of disqualification, as that one's not too hard to believe. So maybe that one gets pushed to the pay-per-view premium live event. But again, they haven't. I can't recall the last time they announced a match on a SmackDown before pay-per-view. If it has happened recently, it's my old age, but I don't recall one as of late. The only other thing I had was if you had any debuts, returns for either match. Was curious to get those.
Yeah, you make some great points about those tag team matches. Don't know why they're not on the cards, and I don't think we'll ever know why. But yeah, really strange decision that is. But yeah, like you said then, about the returns and maybe like debuts and whatnot, I am holding out for a few names here. I think on the women's side of things, we've seen a lot more like returns of like legends and stuff over the years. I think they do sort of like fill a lot of the card with modern day superstars, but they also do a lot for those who are no longer with the company, or they're coming back for like a one-off appearance or whatnot, like Michelle McCool, like Mickie James, people like that in the past. So I feel like that's a lot more open up in the air. But one name that stands out to me that I think I would like to see in it is Jade Cargill. Obviously, we saw her presented towards the end of last year, around the Survivor Series time. I think actually it was before that as well, wasn't it? So she was obviously a massive sign for the company, obviously from AEW. And since then, we've seen her in a couple of backstage packages. She's been at ringside. Well, I say ringside. She's in the Crow's Nest on NXT for a matchup. I would love to see her in the Rumble. I think, I don't know how long she needs to prepare. She was already wrestling, so I'm not sure what exactly the other hold-up is there. Maybe they wanted to debut at the Rumble, or things have gone a bit delayed and they've sort of like elongated her return to this point just because it makes most sense now, maybe as a surprise entrant. I think it'd be a great way to introduce her, and then you could have the person who does eliminate her be her first rivalry. It's really easy for you to go into. I'd like to know your thoughts about potential Jade Cargill debuting.
Yeah, I too would love that, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to do so. I don't watch AEW, but potentially WWE just wasn't happy with her wrestling abilities there. Clearly, she has the look, but maybe she didn't have the in-ring repertoire that Papa Ace was looking for. Perhaps that's the reason for holding out. But again, I do think this is a great opportunity to do so. You don't have to do a ton in a Rumble, especially if she's a late entry. When she gets eliminated by whomever wins or whatever, not a big deal. But yeah, I'd love to see her. I think a lot of people are kind of really hoping for her to make an appearance here. The other, at least from the women's side, that I would kind of like to see. I don't know the status of Raquel, but you know, she's having that the health issue. So if she is or is not sidelined for the long haul, I think she could make an appearance back if she is okay. I haven't heard otherwise. But and the other ones I think are pretty obvious is Liv Morgan. I think if she's got her legal troubles, quote unquote, under wrap, and then I think the big obvious one is Sasha. I think any of those, and I think again we have 6 people announced, so I think we could see all of those, or someone from another company. I think would be the Mickie James bit would be great. Would be great to see again return.
I felt like out of those who are in other companies, Mickie James is probably the easiest one, purely because of Nick Aldis, obviously being the SmackDown general manager, obviously husband and wife duo there. But what about Trinity, Naomi? Apparently she I don't know, she sort of gave a little speech to like in a farewell. That was last week. So perhaps maybe she's on her way out and she's looking to come back to WWE. I don't know. Maybe you could tie in Sasha there as well. Obviously them being involved on their way out of the company those many, many months ago now. Yeah, I feel like Sasha, Liv Morgan is probably a really good shout for this one, depending on her situation. Like you said, Raquel Rodriguez, if she's healthy. And yeah, I think you make some very, very valid, strong points there for all of those. But yeah, I think it may be shock, surprise returns. Naomi, realistic. Sasha, as much as I hate to say it, realistic. And Jade Cargill, realistic too. I think I'm holding up for those. With the men's side of the Rumble and these shock names, I think this is a lot harder. This is a lot harder. See, you're talking guys who are probably recently parted ways with their company. So you're talking like maybe an Andrade, El Idolo, or maybe a Sean Spears, formerly known as Ty Dillinger, people like that. Maybe even a Matt Cardona. I don't know what his situation is with current companies that he's working for. I feel like those are all within possible options. And then if you got people come back from injury, I think this is more hope than anything, but a Big E return would be absolutely phenomenal. I'd love that to happen. Love that to go down. But obviously, his situation is very serious. It's possibly unlikely. I don't know, but I would love for that to happen. Who are the names that you have in mind?
Yeah, you mentioned most of them. I would say on my biggest wish list would be Matt Cardona. He had been teasing there quite a bit for a while. Obviously his wife being a champion in WWE kind of helps make that a little easier. The Big E is being another one. Again, I don't like you. I don't know if that is possible or not. Andrade I would mark it extremely hard for Andrade to come back. The other obvious one, and I don't even want to say it, but I think Brock being back here during his Mania season, I would be surprised if he doesn't come back, but relieved and happy if he doesn't.
Amen to that last one regarding relieved if he doesn't. I can see Lesnar being in it, but I really hope to God that Papa is, not cooking up a Lesnar win again, because that one in 2022 was it? That was a rough. Yeah. That was a rough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
That was hard, man. That was a hard time.
Well, and I think a couple other the obvious answers kind of similar in the vein of Brock. Um, Cena and The Rock, I don't think I would be surprised, especially The Rock. Cena kind of made it seem like he was gone, and now the writer's strike over and all that. But who's to prevent either of those coming back? With only 10 announced, we could see a handful of those. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think there's loads of potential for returns on both sides, on both Rumbles. I mean, but yeah, men's I would say Matt Cardona and Andrade would be at the top of my wish list, and the women's would definitely be probably Sasha and Liv.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Yeah, my top of my wish list, Biggie for the men's, as well as probably Andrade. I wouldn't mind seeing Andrade back in. That would be kind of cool. And then on the women's side, Jade Cargill for her debut, highly anticipated. Looking forward to seeing what she's got to offer. And if I had to give a second name, I'd probably go with Liv Morgan. I wouldn't mind Liv Morgan being back in. I don't know. It doesn't seem right that she's not there. I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a void is there, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. And I think Andrade coming back, I think makes a lot of sense. Yeah, obviously not with AEW anymore, I don't believe. I think his contract has officially ended. And with the rivalry currently going on with LWO, I think that kind of writes itself. You can insert him in there easily on either side, really.
Absolutely. Just sort of like makes it easy with that sort of situation, doesn't it? So, yeah, I suppose, discuss all the Rumbles, discuss all the matches that are otherwise taking place, maybe some returns, maybe some shock surprises, whatnot. I guess that's everything we need to cover here today. This has been the first ever episode of The Push with myself and Nick. And yeah, more to come in the future. We've got our next video and podcast, which will be coming out next week. That will be all about what went down at Royal Rumble. So we'll be reacting to everything. We'll be saying what we thought of everything that went down, giving our thoughts about the event in total, and basically saying what we liked, disliked, indifferent, whatnot, discussing all the happenings. So anything you'd like to say before we head off?
Yeah, and I think just in addition to the predictions and reactions, pretty much just all things WWE, both huge fans of the business and this particular company. And so we have high hopes to release other content, not just pay-per-view, premium live events, reaction and predictions. But we look forward to providing that to you guys.
More to come in the future, absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself, to be fair. Yeah, big fans of the business, and we want to really stretch out and branch out to all sorts of things. Exciting. Looking forward to what the future holds. But hey, thank you very much for listening, guys. Really appreciate you all for popping in for the first ever episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We'll be back next time. So see you later on. Cheers, everyone.